Hey, this is Chase with the Whitney Team and First Team Real Estate here in Cyprus, and welcome to episode 2 of the Cocktails and Questions series. Today I'm going to be addressing solar and the different types of contracts, if it's right for you, so stay tuned to that. Today we are going to be tasting the White Chocolate Blonde by Grand Armor Brewery, and let's give it a go and see how it is. All right, so again, this is the White Chocolate Blonde, from Grand Armor Brewery out in, where is this from? Grand Haven, Michigan? Michigan? I think it's Michigan. Anyways, let's see what it's like. Crisp, refreshing white chocolate blonde ale with a hint of sweetness. Tastes like a blonde, slight white chocolate, not too strong, not too sweet. All right. So we'll sip on that through this. So there's been a lot of talk about solar, and I saw some people were discussing this on our local community group last week, and I wanted to address kind of some of the different types of solar you can get, when it makes sense, and then what to do if you're thinking about selling your house down the road, and that could even be several years down the road. So the main two types of solar contracts are, of course, leased and bought, and the differences are kind of what you'd expect. A lease system, you're leasing the equipment and you're purchasing the set rate, a set amount of electricity at a specified rate that does, by the way, change year over year. They're usually kind of pre-built in with the incremental increase in cost for the kilowatt hours. And then, of course, if you purchase them or finance them, you own the panels, you own the electricity, you're not paying anybody for the energy. You might be financing the cost of the panels, but it's a bit cleaner that way. So we've seen a lot of folks get taken advantage of, unfortunately, with respect to buying panels they don't need in general, buying too many panels for their specific needs. For example, there was a property here in Cyprus a little while back, and they put on a ton of panels, and come to find out that their average monthly payment to Edison pre-solar was, I'm rounding numbers here, was about $85, $95 a month on average throughout the year. And they put on solar panels, and they put on a ton of them again, and their payments were $110 or $120 a month. So they probably didn't need them in the first place. And then secondly, even if you're going to get them, get the right amount for your property. We have a listing currently in Seal Beach where they put panels. This was an elderly elderly homeowner, put some panels on about a year and a half ago, and then a few months later, in less than 6 months, this is a very, very short period of time, a different solar company came knocking on the door and said, hey, we're in partners with the existing solar company, and we want you to get more panels, and we got a better rate for you. So now she has 2 separate solar contracts because she didn't know any better, and that's understandable because they sometimes can be a little sharky. I do want to be careful with how I say that because I know not all solar companies, not all solar contracts are in bad taste. But this one, they've been fighting it for months. And essentially, she got sold kind of a bill of goods on the second part. And now she's got 2 payments. Both are more expensive than her Edison bill was pre-solar. So just be very, very careful. And if you want us to review or maybe answer any questions further in depth, reach out to us. My folks, Sherry and Guy, do have solar on their property. I've looked into it, but we don't have enough electricity use in my house with my wife and 3-year-old to warrant solar just yet. So have looked into it, but again, we do have experience in reviewing some of these contracts and kind of, just making sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. And again, solar can be fantastic, and it can be a really, really great asset for your home. But just be very careful with what you sign and how the term is structured. So now let's get to the aspect of the value for your property and as well as what happens if you sell. So as far as value, we haven't really seen much, and most appraisers will agree that if it's free and clear, the panels belong to the house, you're not paying anybody for the electricity, you're not paying anybody for the panels, you might get a slight bump on appraised value. That's just for the bank though. Buyers, we haven't seen many that put a premium on it. For example, if there were 2 houses in the exact same condition, in the exact same street, same floor plan, the whole thing, and one had solar and one didn't, you'd be surprised that a lot of buyers wouldn't go for the house with solar because they're still unsure about it. still pretty new. So with respect to the value you're going to get, like don't put it on your house to get a return when you sell. You might get a little bit for it, but you're certainly not going to get what you pay, generally speaking. And then with respect to transfers, this is where it gets really, really complex, and you want to be extremely clear on the terms, because you might not think of selling your house in 6 years or 7 years, but things happen. And if you're thinking about selling your house in the near future, I'd say 10 years or sooner, just be careful, because if you do a leased agreement, there are specific ways out, and none of them are tremendously beneficial, especially if the buyer of your property down the road doesn't want it. The buyers either have to assume the contract and therefore qualify not only for the loan to purchase your property, but also qualify for the terms of the solar. And it might not sound like much, but if you're paying $125 a month or so, that can, but if the buyer's at the kind of the limit of their financing, it could very well bump them out of the qualifying range for your property too. And we have had a couple that have fallen out because of the solar contract being too much for the buyer to qualify for. So you can transfer it and assume it, but again, both parties have to agree that it's okay. The buyer has to want it and be willing to pay for the terms that you negotiated, because now remember, they're assuming the contract that you signed up for, so they have to be okay with that. The second way that we see a little bit more often is a buyout. And this, on power purchase agreements specifically, I've seen this more of a problem. I just realized that this matches my shirt very well. So, and this is all going to be in your initial contract. So again, I would pay attention to the production. I would pay attention to the transfer and what the options are. For example, there's one contract that we're looking at right now that there is no buyout allowed for the first, I believe it was 7 years. I'll have to double check that. But meaning that the buyer has to assume it. There's no option. Because a lot of times the buyers will request, hey, we want the seller to pay off the remaining amount. You come to some negotiation, the buyer might pay, 25%, the seller pays 75%, whatever it is, it's all negotiable. But if you can't even have that option in the first few years of a leased agreement, which is pretty common, that can really be a thorn in your side, as I was scratching my side there, can really be a thorn in your side when you go to sell. And it's important that when you sell a property, in anything really, you want the biggest audience you can possibly have, and you want to have the most eyeballs and the most qualified and motivated buyers to see it and be interested. And if you have terms that will scare off 20, 30, 40% of the prospective buyers, now your audience is shrunk. And again, who's going to pay the most for your house? That's what we're looking to do every time we sell a property. So that was kind of a roundabout there. But again, you do want to make sure that the transfer options are very, very clear. The other thing with power purchase agreements that we've seen, since they're leased and you don't own the panels, the buyouts can be astronomical. If you go to buy out, the terms that we've seen on these leases are you're paying fair market value from a third-party appraiser of the panels. So when you sign the agreement on a lease, you're not signing how much they're worth if you choose to buy them out later. They're going to assess the value at that time. And solar has gotten drastically less expensive in the last few years as it's become more and more prevalent. And the fair market buyout for these panels that were, I believe, 7 years old was like $46,000. And now you can put a whole new system, brand new, with more production for less than that. So that's a few of the problems that we've seen on leased systems. If you finance it, you're agreeing to the cost of the panels, and the electricity is yours. So there's nowhere, there's no way for the values to change, generally speaking. Again, there's so many companies out there with so many different terms and ways they can structure these things. So again, if we can help bring clarity to any of these answers, the first thing I want to say is be careful with the terms, not only resale, because again, you might not be thinking about resale, and that's fine. So if that's the case, I would weigh your options of financed or leased. And again, if you are in a position to finance them or in a position to buy them, that might, generally speaking, be a better solution for you. and then also just be careful with the future terms and the future rates. So again, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Cocktails and Questions. If we can help with anything, please reach out. Our information is all over the place, but my email address is chasewhitney@firstteam.com. And if you have any further questions you'd like us to address in a future video, let me know. Again, chasewhitney@firstteam.com, or our website is 4realestatehelp.com. Have a great day.